just a minute here. Try to get some water, gets it up. Okay. Alright, so I put together this master noise function and I really like the effects of it, but I want to get a handle on controlling the mountain and ocean layers a little bit better, and to do that I need to look into my blending techniques. So this is halfway through me building a different blending technique than the one I was using. Alright, so I really like the subtraction of the river blend that I'm getting here for carving out these kind of surface channels. However, it's kind of erased my mountains and brought, like, changing it from this method to this method. It's kind of pushed the ocean or the beaches way too far inland. So I gotta figure out how to fix that. Also, okay, that's not having any effect anymore. That's good. Like, the less of the, if I can get rid of, right, because it's not being multiplied. Okay. Let's at least get a multiplier in here and see if we can balance it out. Because I want a good distribution of ocean and mountains while maintaining like a similar level of variance here. Oh, let's not do that yet. Alright, so let's kind of explain what's going on here. I'm trying to. So let's take a look at this value, for instance. So this is our river map, basically, as it stands right now. And this is our river mask, as it stands right now. It's a material function. We have to preview it this way. Oh yeah, and I should probably put it just on gameplay, huh? So I like this because it's giving me a very discrete control over the riverbed height and fall off. Let's just put the sea level transition at 0 for the moment and come back to it. Or like a 0.01. Doesn't have to be 0, but. And then the river transition phase, if I was running 0.01, would look something like. Let's do this. Riverbed height. Set this at 0.07. And then let's just use the C transition actually. The same transition value for all the water masking. So we need to add and subtract the C transition phase. One in here, one in here. So I'm curious here. So if I was to just plug straight in here instead of subtracting from it, then I'm centered around 0.5 and my maximum should be 1. Okay, coverage is power. The water is obnoxious. Hang on. There. Water too shiny. So now if I hit this, it should change. Alright, so what are we doing here? We are trying to get a final riverbed mask. Let's take a look at what our output looks like here. This basically becomes our erosion mask output, and then this becomes our water mask. Output. Jesus Christ, where is it? There it is. Alright, there's that one. Now, where's our land height map coming into this? So this is our mountain layer. And we're multiplying that by our continent height. What if we... What if we added it? Add an average. Still too much. this. My variance output look like here. Let's go ahead and move this stuff over a little bit too. multipliers at 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So I want to see what my actual output is being formed from. And then come back over here, put this 1.1.
multiply the mountain layer with the variance layer, multiply the output with the continent height multiplier, and then multiply the output again. Damn it. Let's actually change this to the height lookup gizmo. Back to Terra. understand how this can be the case. So let's take a look here again. Just the same. And then we multiply this with the output. For content height. Some of those mountain ranges do look nice like this. When I turn down the okay, yeah, that's where that's coming from. Thinking. Alright, so I do probably want the up-down variance. So what if I did this, this? Thinking about it. Yeah, it's a little complicated. Basically, I have these layers that I built. So I got a river layer, a mountain layer, variance layer, and a continent layer. And I'm trying to play around with different ways of combining these together. So like you can see, not you. Where's my river multiplier? Here we go. So you can see, like, I use this layer to basically multiply and carve out valleys. And then likewise, I'm trying to figure out how to use this layer to properly raise up mountains. And more importantly, I want to be able to kind of control it all to a fine degree. So it just takes a bunch of hours of trial and error, basically. Just kind of face smash on the problem until I come up with a solution that I'm satisfied with. The fun part is that I have all these function calls, these custom material functions I've written. So like this graph is actually way more complicated because each of these function calls is in and of itself like a whole nother graph. They're not like crazy complicated. Like if we look at this one, it just looks like this. But yeah. So I'm pretty satisfied with my river carving, with the exception of the fact that it's like cutting out. It's making me have to like put a fudge factor into my end land height that I don't like. Like I would really like to get all the numbers balanced such that I don't need to just arbitrarily multiply by some number to make it all look good. So like right now I'm multiplying this all by 6, take it down to 4, 6, 10, 2, 1. And here's a 1. And this is what I don't like, is that whatever I'm doing here to blend these is like taking the height map much closer to 0 than 0.5. Which ideally you would have like 0.5 as your most common. That's going to be your mid-range, and then kind of ramp up into mountains and down into the coastlines. So I'm trying to come up with a way to reduce this coastline spread stuff. It might actually be easier with a different texture. Maybe not. Yeah, this one's probably the best. Let's reduce the temperature though so you can get a little bit more white peaks. I also have too much of my variance layer coming through here. I could probably fix that by increasing the scale. Nope. Maybe it's coming from the mountain layer actually. Yeah, I'm kind of going back and forth casually between this and work as well, so if I don't respond for a while on things, it's because I'm doing multiple things at once. Where'd my water bottle go? There we go. It's pretty complicated, but it's not too bad. It's kind of the end result of my 3 weeks of teaching myself about procedural noise and how to combine it to get kind of realistic terrain features. It's really hard to get good looking erosion without running a post-process filter. And if I'm doing it in a material, I can't really do that. So like this kind of like multiplying out the riverbeds is the best that I've come up with, and having a consistent layer of distortion that applies to all the layers. It kind of ends up making your rivers kind of follow some of the features of the landscape, because everything's getting distorted by the same distortion layer. So as it bends around your land features and stuff, it also is bending around like your carved out areas of riverbeds and such. The problem I have right now is that as I increase the prevalence of rivers, you see how it's increasing the prevalence of the mountainous regions as well? I don't want that. I want it to only carve out the river area. Because this, while it looks good, is going to make it incredibly hard to work with as far as randomization goes. Because if I randomize this, it's got a negative impact on the other values, right? But that's not good. I don't want that to happen. I could center it. So I could take this value and I could subtract 0.5 from it and then add 1. Subtract 0.5, multiply by 2, add 1. So if I do this, instead of getting a multiplier that's centered on 0, I'm just thinking, also, this is definitely wrong here. Okay, this is the continent height multiplied by the riverbed multiplied by the mountains. I think I'm applying the riverbed twice, and that might be why. Yeah, so I've already applied the riverbed to the continent. This is multiplying by the mountains. Feeds straight in. That might even be it. Okay, I think I was applying this noise twice. I have to figure out this patterning in the background too. I don't like it. Let's see, so let's try this.
Hmm. So we center this around 0. Okay, let me think. What's this output look like again? I think this should already be centered around 0. Okay, I do think this is necessary. Okay, so with this value, we can control the extent of the carving away from the edge of the riverbeds. Okay. Something like that. And then where's our mountain output? And after we modify it with the variance. Alright, so here's our mountain output. And then let's get these grouped up. So this is fine the way it is. Just do R and raise. We'll call this C base. Alright, so these are our 3 layers that we're trying to come up with a good way to combine together. So I multiply U by U. I get that same continent, but with carved out rivers and channels on it. And then if I
multiply U by like 2. And then let's just try sticking that straight in here. And now what happens if I raise these values? Oh, well, of course, that happens. That makes sense, but... Overlay in transition phase will do like 0.2. And that sort of makes sense because there's rivers over the top of the mountains. So the issue I'm having, maybe they should all be multiplicative. Like, instead of lowering it, they should all raise it. So to do that, to do that, think I actually like that as much as what it was before. Yeah, this is just better. But how can I balance these two? How can I reach these keys? Could play with some layer blending properties. This is our continent, the base height function. This is our current river carving function, and we can control the spread. I think those two are good. Let's take a look at our mountains. And the mountains don't look bad either. Maybe like a color dodge. I'm just firing shots in the dark here. No, no, no. Not like this. What if I multiply this by this, and then add the result of that back to this, and then multiply that by the rivers? does that stack up to like a straight multiply everything together and then... Maybe just straight multiplying everything together is the way, and then have a final multiplier. I just don't like having this arbitrarily high number to bring up detail. But it is kind of nice to be able to say like I want 20 and have everything work out right. Hello, I'm working on this Procedural Planet material that I've been working on for a few weeks. I'm experimenting with different ways of blending layers together. So basically, like, ignore the colors. The colors are kind of irrelevant here. I'm really concerned. This is my function that's producing a height map, and I'm really concerned with getting a nice varied height map that looks like somewhat realistic. So like we can visualize it with this widget here. So like I have a, yeah, it's getting there. I'm fine tuning now. I have a river layer that I carve rivers out. I have a mountain layer that I raise layers up, and then I have a continent layer that blocks out the whole continent and like the kind of average height over the course of it. So I've got those layers pretty much working, but I'm trying to figure out and play with different ways of blending them together. And primarily I'm primarily interested in my ability to control it effectively, because like right now there's some like annoying features of it with like the numbers where it makes it hard to manage a little bit. Like a minute ago, for instance, if I set this lower, you see how the mountains get higher, but this is supposed to be the riverbed height. So like I don't want changing the riverbed height lower to raise the mountains up. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what I'm trying to puzzle out right now. So like at a 0.2 it looks good, but at like a 0 we're pushing up way too many mountains. And that's because I could do like no fall off, and then it's just, I believe if I do it like this, it doesn't affect the mountains at all. But yeah, I already kind of can. So I've built, like, this is like version 3 of this material, and I already rigged up a blueprint on this, so you can randomize the noise that's feeding into it and all the parameters. It's not too hard to do. It's not high res enough noise to really be able to land on them, but let me see. Let's see. Do I have any of these that are... Nope, that's not it. Metrics, nope. Unfortunately, well, here, I know what I can do. Simple. There we go. Hey, kitty. Yeah, so this is like the previous version. Yes, you could. You absolutely could. So this is the previous version. I also worked up this atmosphere shader a little while ago that does like Raleigh and Mie scattering. So it's kind of cool if you go behind the planet and you get like this nice kind of halo, and if you go into the atmosphere it'll actually like correctly change the the sky color and such. And basically, but like, so like check the mountains out here, like they have this like kind of squiggly line pattern. And that specifically is what annoyed me to the point to try and make the third iteration of this. And if we go back to our height map here, and I feed it back in the actual planet gradient that I was using out there instead of this doodad, then you can kind of see I don't have those kind of squiggly line mountains anymore. And also we've introduced this kind of like channel carving spider web of stuff along with potentially rivers and such. So that's kind of what I'm trying to get working with this one. And like the effect now I think looks good enough to use. The problem is the parameters, like I said, are not great for proceduralization at this point, because I need to be able to like change the rivers without changing the mountains, or change the mountains without drastically changing the rivers, you know? And so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm trying to figure out different ways of blending these layers together that will produce a nice effect, and I don't have to worry about, like, this is just, what I'm doing here is just a straight multiply. Multiply by a scalar. Which I don't. Oh, after this? I think the first part of your question, the first, like, do you know if I really am still sane? Some would question it. It's a lot of just chilling and space smashing on it. Like, just sit here and fuck with it for 8 hours, and then maybe you come up with something good, maybe you don't. And after you do that for 3 weeks, you get something cool. Also, over the weekend, I'll show this. This is fun. I made a little physics-based spaceship. It's like dog shit. But, like, the ship model itself is just, like, literally thrown together primitives. Come on. Come on. Come on, give me control. Yeah, I know how to do it. You can change the, like, down axis of the player, and I can add my thoughts right now is that I would add a gravity sphere, basically, that extends out beyond the planet. That would be like a gravity well blueprint, basically. So, like, once you enter that, the planet's gravity will start affecting you, and we'll have some kind of fall off based on the radius and the distance from the center of the gravity well, and that can increase or decrease the amount that gravity is affecting you. And then you can always have the, like, down z-axis once you enter that gravity well be pointing at the center of it, and you can do it that way. That's, like, the basic idea here of how I would do it. I also worked out this cool little shader yesterday. It's a view, a proportion of the view scale shader, where as you get further away from the atmosphere shader, its luminosity increases inversely to the amount of screen space it occupies. So, like, right now, if I wasn't doing that, you wouldn't be able to see the planet from here. I know, it sucks, because it's like, to me, it looks fine, but streaming it really sucks. Like, it doesn't properly output the screen when I'm screen sharing, and if it doesn't do it till I, like, click in the screen, and if I do it through, like, binding to Unreal itself, it just crashes. I haven't figured out how to make it, like, stream appropriately yet. But, like, you see how that little blue dot over there, if I can get it to update, is the Earth or whatever. It's not the Earth, but Alt Tab. Yeah, it's like it doesn't. It's so frustrating that it doesn't update. But like basically, I added this logic to the atmosphere shader yesterday to make the atmosphere glow the smaller it gets on the screen, and you get like the nice blue dot from a distance, so you don't lose your planet when you're far away from it. It just becomes like another little star that moves around proportionally. But yeah, I like maybe this weekend I'll look into how to properly get this streaming properly. I mean, I've tried before. It's really annoying. It's better in the viewport than the play. At least in the viewport, it like when I stop giving inputs, it will update. But in play mode, it's absolute dog shit, and that's where you get like the best appearance. But anyway, back to the grind. This. Yeah. So to do gravity, I don't think it's actually going to be that hard. You can come up with some kind of inverse squared fall off base. So like extend the gravity. This is also how I'm planning on modulating the ship warp speed, so that you don't just crash into planets. So my thought process right now is that I'll create a blueprint for like a gravity well. That blueprint you'll put in the master planet blueprint, and we'll scale it based on mass or something like that, right? We can put a mass field in there, and we'll scale the bubble around the Earth. It's just a collision sphere, basically, around the Earth based on the mass of whatever planet we're looking at. And then we can do like we can set a gravity amount based on the mass as well, like an acceleration constant. And we can get the vector pointing at the center of that bubble from wherever the player is, and we can just constantly apply the acceleration vector to them. And we can modify the acceleration vector by like an inverse squared fall off or something like that. That would reach basically zero as you hit the very boundary of the sphere, and as you get closer, you get more and more affected by it. So that's how I would do the gravity. And then you have to alter the down vector for the player to the center of the sphere every frame as well. So that's how we handle like keeping their feet facing down, right? And then the last thing that I wanted to do is like say you're using your warp speed or like your super cruise or whatever. Well, that's going too fast, you'll just crash into the planet. So, and also it's cooler if you fly slower when you're close to the planet because it gives a bigger sense of scale. So my thoughts are the same way I'm doing like an inverse squared fall off for the gravity, or that I will. You could do the same thing to the overall max speed of the spaceship, so that like as soon as you enter the gravity bubble, you can put up a little warning, look, entering gravity bubble, exiting super cruise, and then you could modulate the player's speed down as they get closer to the planet, or something like that. That's kind of my thoughts on how to handle that stuff. But I'm a long way away from that. First, we're just going to generate some procedural solar systems. That just involves spawning some spheres, applying this material to it with different textures, noises, attribute values, and spawning in a star or two, and setting up the lighting and such. Yeah, you can. I've done origin shifting so like this is. I've done this project a couple times. I actually have this project is actually the host to a procedural octree generation scheme that I wrote in C++. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. And So this doesn't look like much here. That's because there's a C++ plugin that's going to generate all the data in the background. So if I play this, it's got to compile shaders. This can generate basically a universe-sized set of randomized coordinate system, or basically voxel cores. And the cool thing about this is it doesn't look fancy like my other sky map or anything like that. Oh my god, it's lagging like crazy. Why can't I move? Alright, let's try it again. Oh, because I'm on a third person character. Okay. Hang on. I gotta turn this to simulate. And let's turn the speed way up. Okay. Alright, so the cool thing about this is you get relativistic speed on all the octree elements. And these are just kind of visualizations. They're not really like in products here. But I do origin shifting here when you warp between systems. So like rather than, actually this is not exact, I leave the origin. I move the whole universe instead of moving the player, and that keeps you from hitting areas where like you'd run into precision issues. But like the cool thing about this is I can generate point clouds in any shape I want to, and I can inject them at different orders of magnitude of the octree. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So like this is the node like representing this layer of the octree, the scale of this layer that this point cloud got injected into. And this is the point cloud that I injected at this node. And then if we go to the shiny one, we'll notice that there's another point cloud here, right? And then I wonder how far down I am. Hold on. This gets very big. Now we're in another one, right? So let's make it even bigger. Oh, I crashed it. Nope, I didn't. Okay, great. So now I'm in another one, right? And we can nest this stuff pretty much as deep as, I mean, I can go about 60 layers deep. Each one of these is like maybe 10 layers further down than the next one. So eventually I want to be attaching solar systems. So now we're cruising around at like a galaxy level. Like each one of these points would represent like an entire galaxy, right? And shit, where'd the original? We can find it. Okay. Yes, so we're at like galaxy level here. If I go back to this one, this would be like stellar clusters in a galaxy. And then if we go to the glowing one, or actually at the top level, I guess we would be at like galactic cluster level, and then the system we're in would be like galaxies in a galactic cluster, and then we would go over here, and this would be like stellar clusters in a galaxy, and then we go to this one here, and this would be like stars in a stellar cluster. Oh, I'm too fast now. And then we go in here, and we would be in like individual, I don't know. You get the idea. So like this would eventually be the spine. I can provide point cloud functions and generate a set of normalized points from -1 to 1 in their coordinate space. and then I can inject that into the octree at any level of the octree. So like the octree is in squared scale times your leaf node scale per layer. So like at your leaf node, you would be in. At your one node up from the leaf node, you'd be in squared, and it does like that. All the wait, no, n times 2. So if I have a 60 depth octree, I can take a point cloud that I've generated, -1 to 1 normalized, and I can inject that into any layer I want, and it will go into that layer at the scale of that layer. So like if I say my galaxies are going to be at 10, and my stellar clusters are going to be at 20, and my stars are going to be at 40, and my planets are going to be at 60 or something like that, then if I wanted to generate hooks to bind objects to for those type of objects, so like say I want to make an object that can bind to a hook for a galaxy, well I could sample the points at that layer 10 and take the voxel cores and then use those to proceduralize galaxy objects and stick them there, and then when you get close enough to one I could fade it out and have stellar cluster objects at the next layer down. And then when you get to the very bottom, you have planets. So I built this top down, and now I'm kind of working bottom up on procedural stuff to bind into it. Yeah, so it's just a sparse voxel octree, but that I've set up to basically eat point clouds and generate randomization cores. There's more to